took risks and some worked out and some didn't. What made you take those risks, and would you do it all over again?
Yeah, it's funny. I am not the biggest risk taker when it comes to my career. Some people have told me, oh my gosh, but you've shifted careers all these, these different times from technical writing into project management, M&A, chief of staff, and back again. For me, they didn't feel like they were that big of a change necessarily at the time, because I felt like I could do it. But I failed. I failed spectacularly and publicly a couple of times. I've been laid off. But I don't spend a lot of time looking back on that stuff or worrying about it, because we all make the decisions with the information we have at the time. We tried, one of those, would you feel worse because you tried and failed, or because you didn't try and you wish you would always know? So I look for that as the big thing. But, there are companies, if I had followed one of my bosses to the pre-IPO company, I wouldn't need to work right now, but I would have been driving on 101 for an hour and a half each direction every day. And I was not willing to do that. Instead, gave him one of my best project managers, and she made all the money, which is awesome. I'm good with that. But the mistakes or the risks I took that didn't work out, I feel bad about the ones that I knew better. So those are the ones where I learned, don't question my own judgment. Don't question, oh, well, maybe I'm right or maybe I'm wrong. Just don't do it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. But the other thing to remember is the higher you get up the career ladder, the more likely it is that you're going to be impacted by those changes. I'm certainly aware as chief of staff to one of the VPs that if that VP leaves, I'm going to be in a big scramble, because there's just a few of us in the company. So I accept that as part of the risk, and you sort of figure that out in your financial plan as well. But it doesn't stop me from taking the jobs. But I think if you're in a role where you're really not happy, either you don't like the company, you've got friction with your boss, you're in a job that just does not feel right to you, give it a few months, give it 6 months maybe, and then make a change. I had a situation years back where I really didn't like the new VP. I was running the PMO at the time, and as he came in, we had a lot of friction. Like, we just didn't play well. We had a big blow up, an argument, and I was like, good Lord, I'm going to get fired. But instead what happened was we realized it took us a while to mesh. And he turned out to be a phenomenal leader, a great human being. But we both had this facade we had to get through. And, he's sort of, one of these guys that just didn't loosen up, and I wanted things my way probably at the time. But it turned out great. And I worked for him for a bunch of years. He was always super supportive. He was the one that tried to take me to the pre-IPO company. So we stay in touch, and it's great. But sometimes those things take a little bit of time. So don't give up too soon, but also don't be miserable for your career. Happiness kind of has a dollar figure on it, and decide what you're willing to trade. The other thing I would say is I oftentimes hear people in mentoring, they're like, I want to move into management. Well, why do you want to move into management? And what it really comes down to is either their parents put a lot of pressure on them growing up, or their partner wants them to be in management, or they just feel like that's the thing to do. And I caution you on those. There are lots of individual IC roles that are wonderful for people, but if you don't like management, please don't do it. Folks generally aren't great at management when they just don't like it. They're doing it for the money. And I don't think they become great leaders. So stay true to yourself of what's important, and don't listen too much to what other people think you should do with your career.